Okay, next segment. The website tvtropes.org says that the plots of holiday specials frequently involve characters saving Christmas. In your estimation, who saved Christmas in 2022?
I have not been on tvtropes.org since like my college years. So it's been a while. Oh, it's like a
I've
rabbit
literally
hole.
never heard of this
Well,
website.
the fact that I mentioned tvtropes.org is not relevant here. I'm sorry for ambushing you and not prepping you for any of the things that are happening today. You don't have to go to tvtropes.org to understand.
I'm here. It's too late.
We're rolling. We're rolling.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
I mean, I was telling PeggySue we have a surprise musical guest, and I'm not going to tell you who it is until they arrive. So
Truly a holiday spectacular.
I
Yeah.
can't wait. I should have dressed more festive.
you should have. I tried to wear a wintry hat, but it was so tight on my head, I had a headache for a while, and I'm still recovering.
Should I just hold this the whole time?
You can, if you can put it behind you somehow, if you can put on a Santa hat if one is handy, that's good too. But
This unlit Christmas tree.
if you're watching on youtube.com/wedgelive, PeggySue is holding a full-size Christmas tree.
No, it's a baby Christmas tree.
This is the Wedge Live podcast, Holiday Spectacular. Cue the bells.
Into it.
The sound effects is nice.
You've come a long way, John, since the first podcast episode.
Yeah, we're here. 90 some episodes we've done over 2 years. My good friends PeggySue and Elissa have joined me for many of those episodes. Many of the most successful episodes have involved one or both of you.
What can we say? We have pull. The internet loves us, John.
You do. PeggySue, were you involved in the transit episode? That was the absolute top, most listened to episode. People love that. People are hungry for transit. Were you involved?
Was that the one talking about Hennepin for all?
Jonathan Ahn was involved. I remember that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, congratulations, PeggySue. You can share that award with me. Most listened to Wedge Live podcast of 2022. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I literally couldn't have done it without you.
So let's start with the reason for the season. Let's talk about what the holidays mean to us. Do we celebrate Christmas? And what does this time of year mean to you? Elissa, are you prepared to go first?
I guess I can be. Yeah, I grew up in a household that celebrated Christmas. I grew up in a household that was very Catholic. And I can now consider myself whatever the expat version of a Catholic is. Like, I don't know. There's still a lot of Catholic things in my world, and my brain is like, has many years of practice understanding and orienting towards like Catholicism and Christianity. But I don't really practice anymore. So I do mark the solstice, and I definitely have family celebrations around Christmas. But it's a complicated holiday. It comes with a lot of baggage. People have a lot of feelings about holidays, it turns out.
How do you feel about it? Are you okay with it? Do you enjoy it? Does it bring good feelings or bad feelings?
I'm like that. I mean, both. And I love Christmas music. I'm like that person who just wants there to be like Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole and like the Rat Pack Christmas music playing from Thanksgiving to the end of the year. And my spouse hates that. He's like, no Christmas music forever. I feel like I know a lot of people who are in one group or the other,
But I'm irritating in that way, in that I will occasionally like whistle Christmas music at the wrong time of year. I apologize to anyone who I've done that to. But PeggySue, do you have any thoughts along these lines?
Great question. I also grew up in a pretty like religious family with big emphasis on Christmas. And I personally I think I really appreciate, especially now, like in our second year of marriage, like really making traditions with like my spouse and like having the holidays as like a marcation of like a time to remember, like that, you can make these traditions and like be to celebrate family and celebrate all those things. So I personally am a very like, whatever that holiday is for people. And I try to, I don't know, I feel like I've seen a lot of like decentering Christmas in your workplace, right? Like, so I've been trying to be like more mindful that like Christmas does not exist for everyone, even though I grew up in and have always been like very centered around the idea of like this time of the year is about like Christmas. But I love it. We haven't gotten our tree up yet, which is like a really big bummer for me because we love to have our tree up as long as possible. We just love the like, I wish it was like socially appropriate to have like a tree like in your house year round that you have twinkly lights on and decorate, because I genuinely really love that.
Who's going to stop you?
No one technically. I think just people would mock me. But yeah,
I would
love
support you, PeggySue. I would be very happy for you. You should name your tree. We name our trees every year. You should get a permanent tree and name it.
Yeah, just have it like a tree in a pot and that like just has Christmas lights on it all year round. Like I just think it's so beautiful. So yeah, like our mantle is decorated. I did send my poor husband on an adventure in our creepy basement for like quite a while. I had COVID last week, and like one day I was just feeling a little bit better, and I was like, we have to decorate something. And I was like, please find our stockings, And he keeps coming up with like a different box of Christmas things, a different bag of Christmas things. And he's like, there's no stockings. I'm telling you, we don't own stockings. I'm like, we own them. I know we own them. Like, why would I have bought stocking holders if we don't have stockings? We don't. We do not own stockings. This poor man, he really wanted to like help me out, and we do not own any stockings. We own stockings for our cats. The cats have stockings. We do not have stockings.
Oh. You know what I like about this time of year is that things just kind of stop. There's no other time of year where for like a whole week or more, the world just kind of stops. And I like to watch in the Wedge neighborhood. I like to watch the street empty out of parked cars. I enjoy that because everyone leaves. Nobody hosts Christmas in the Wedge, or very few people do. It's a lot of apartment dwellers. And it's a time of almost solitude for me. A time to get away from it all. I don't travel. I don't visit family. I'm just kind of, I enjoy that the world stops and I can be alone with my thoughts for a bit. It's a meditative time of year for me.
I feel like there's so much about the way that we think about like winter in Minnesota and like the things that because like there are lots of things to not like about winter, right? Like we could all list those things, but like the things we do like about winter get sort of like collapsed into this idea of Christmas and holiday, right? Like I also love when it's like still and quiet in the winter and like people are, hibernating and wherever they're hibernating, whether it's here or elsewhere. But that becomes part of this conversation about like holiday, and I don't think it gets appreciated enough as like part of winter, right? And it's like some of it has to do with the fact that many of us get time off that is aligned with like the public school calendars, which also are aligned with the Christmas holiday. But it's like, I don't know, that magical stuff like doesn't actually have anything to do with Christmas. It's just like winter in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Can I not attribute the stillness of the winter to Jesus, to baby Jesus?
No,
there
baby
are many
Jesus was
hymns
born in
that
like
would
April.
tell you otherwise. But yes, PeggySue's right.
No, I think that's like, I was just going to say that too, was just like, I think that the snow does that too, like, especially like a fresh snow, or like, these are the things we'll miss with climate change, RIP. But like, just like the way, I think about this a lot in January, just like the calm and the like quiet and the like way that people hunker in. And I think that's pronounced at Christmas time because of that time off. But yeah, I love opening like the, looking out to my backyard and seeing like my house and the yard and snow and seeing it sort of untouched in that way gives that really nice cozy vibe. So
do either of you have particularly meaningful Minneapolis winter memories, holiday memories, winter memories. Did anything outrageous happen to you? Anything?
Are you trying to get us to talk about the snowstorm of 1990? Is that what's happening here?
Nobody was here for that, were we?
I wasn't born.
I was here. I was here.
Oh, we don't need to hear about that, do we?
Great. No, we don't. R.I.P.
I will.
It happened.
I will complain about Holodazzle, because that is like one of my most favorite memories as a kid. Is like my mom always took me to Holodazzle, and like I miss it so much. I miss it. I miss the parade. I miss like Dayton's and Macy's having Santa. Like, oh, what a treat! That was just like the literal greatest. I like only wanted to be like the light up. Like XL Energy always had like people in like a big Christmas bulb. And, like, they would, like, walk around, and it was amazing. 10 out of 10. I miss that. Like, I want that back so desperately.
Do you not enjoy the Loring Park version?
You know, I think it has its, like, merits. I wish that both existed. Like, one, I wish it was still back downtown. I think that is such a, like, wonderful piece of what downtowns are intended to be and do. And I, like, you know, I think that the Loring Park version, like, to have more of, like, a Christmas village and the ice skating, I think that's really fun. But I really miss having the parade and having that tied to, you know, the pieces of it that were downtown.
I'm not a fan of a parade. I'm not big on parades. Elissa, did you really want to tell a snowstorm story? Because I don't want to deprive you of that.
No, I don't. I absolutely don't. I want to talk about sledding, though.
Go.
Which is like a thing I did all the time as a kid and were some of my favorite winter memories. And I like haven't figured out who to go sledding with as an adult. I don't know. I used to like go with my siblings group, right? I was the oldest in my household of 4. So
is this an invitation to our audience or to me in particular that you would like to go sledding with us?
It sounds like the 3 of us should plan a sledding excursion and invite those.
Yeah, are you joking? I would sled
listenership
immediately.
We're going to be doing some winter-themed episodes, and I would love for one of them to just be
on a
sledding with
on a sled?
All of us sledding. On a sled. We could mobile recording on a sled. We could wee into the microphone.
It can be like a mini episode, like a bonus episode where it's just, you know, a YouTube exclusive content.
We'll put it up as audio, too. I don't care how bad it is. Who is your... Here's a little Christmas-themed segment. Who's your top Scrooge for 2022? It's a little negative. It could be... I hope it's a person because people love it when you smack talk a person, but it could be a concept. Who's your top Scrooge, locally speaking?
You got mad at me last year for naming Geek Love Cafe's pizza as Person of the Year, so I don't think I'm going to go the concept route again.
I forget. Whose pizza?
Geek Love Cafe. They're not open right now.
Oh, okay.
This was last year. People can refer.
That was
to
a cop
year.
out. Don't name a food as Person of the Year. But this is a negative one. Who is your top Scrooge?
Mine is all of the businesses on Hennepin who thought they needed parking.
You know who my top Scrooge is? Whoever denied PeggySue a seat on the Minneapolis Planning Commission. That is such a big... I'm so broken up about that because you would be so good. There's so
Could
many
you have
commissioners...
imagined me and Chloe on there?
Well, I imagine you. I'm a particular fan of you. And I think you would have been great. Though Chloe
You're
is
also
good
a fan
too.
of Chloe.
Chloe is good. I have no complaints about Chloe. But I regret that very much. You were so close. You made it onto an agenda. You were pulled off of an agenda, right?
Yeah.
That never
I was
happens.
recommended by staff. You know what? It's all right. I think, you know, it adds more to the lore. I think, like, you know, if anything, I feel more powerful than having been appointed to the Planning Commission, being denied an appointment to the Planning Commission. Like, I'm going to add that to my LinkedIn bio.
The legend of PeggySue.
It feels like this is your villain origin story. Like, instead of being appointed to the Planning Commission where you could have done so much good, instead what? I can't wait to hear what comes next.
Yeah, this is like me announcing I'm running for city council. Like, I got here because you didn't appoint me to the Planning Commission.
It's like the thought that Trump ran for president because people made too many jokes about him. Show us all, like Donald Trump, PeggySue. Show us all.
Yeah, I'm gonna run for mayor. This is why.
Strong mayor?
Yeah, strong mayor. And then I'm gonna reverse the strong mayor thing. I'm gonna be like, you know what? Never mind. We didn't want this.
Are you still contemplating a run for office? I know you used to tease us with the idea you'd run for park board. Constantly flaked out on that one.
Wow.
I just thought this was a holiday episode, John.
I'm sorry. Let's go to Elissa. Who is your top Scrooge for 2022?
Casey Carl, so I'm not like going that far.
Oh, really? What did Casey Carl do to you?
Rip.
I mean, Casey Carl is like the mastermind behind the government restructuring. You know,
It's true.
That says all I need to say.
Yeah, him in the
Yeah, I
downtown
respect
council. And the thing about Casey Carl is he knows so much, and he is so smart, so sharp, that he can pull some shit. And you're like, how do I know better than Casey Carl what is appropriate here? He is hard to disagree with because he knows so much.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to start a fight with a city clerk is generally my rule of thumb. And I think that applies to Casey Carl probably. I don't really know him that well, but...
My top Scrooge, in addition to whoever denied PeggySue a seat on the Planning Commission, is Margaret Anderson Kelleher and Jacob Fry for the whole Hennepin Avenue thing. I felt deeply Scrooged out of a full-time bus lane. I don't have any more to say about that.
Your hat says it all.
Yeah. I didn't even plan that. My hat does say it all.
I will say this background setup is, a real disappointment for me. That you don't have all of your paraphernalia behind you, John.
Oh, I do. If you expand my video, I do have some stuff behind me.
Oh, okay.
Although I don't with
so large.
Combining the three of us into one screen, it will probably get cut out in the final version.
Yeah.
Okay, next segment. The website tvtropes.org says that the plots of holiday specials frequently involve characters saving Christmas. In your estimation, who saved Christmas in 2022?
I have not been on tvtropes.org since like my college years. So it's been a while. It's like a rabbit hole.
I've literally never heard of this website.
Well, the fact that I mentioned tvtropes.org is not relevant here. I'm sorry for ambushing you and not prepping you for any of the things that are happening today. You don't have to go to tvtropes.org.
I'm here. It's too late. It's too late. This is not a great website.
It's basically it's another way of saying who did good in 2022. I just wanted to phrase it as who saved Christmas.
Voters did good. I'm so proud of people across the United States of America.
Well, locally speaking, so you have to say Mary Moriarty or something. You have to connect this to local.
Literally voters, like Mary winning was spectacular. Shout out to everyone up here in North Minneapolis and to her team for campaigning really well up here because we overwhelmingly went for her. But yeah, I'm so proud of voters. And, Joe Byron today signed the Marriage Equality Act. So
Joe Byron?
Shout out to Joe Byron.
This is a meme I'm unaware of. I know Let's Go Brandon. I don't know what Joe Byron means.
Oh, I'll send you the TikTok later. Don't worry.
Okay, I have to be on TikTok to understand this.
Yeah.
Okay. I was also heartened by Mary Moriarty winning because we have been overcome by fear politics for the last several years, and it gave me hope that we don't necessarily have to spend 2023, the city council elections, dealing with that, but we probably will deal with it, and it probably will be decisive. Not to be negative, not to foreclose on hope for next year, but a little crack in the opening for maybe next year won't be a terrible fear-based election again. Elissa, who saved Christmas?
I don't know. This one's a tough one. I mean, because in part, what I've been thinking about is, like everyone who worked at the state level, the DFL trifecta. As much as I deeply wish someone had like primaried Tim Walz to the left, and I understand why they didn't, and I'm still really sad about that. I don't know, just like so many people did so much work to make that happen. And there's so much that happens at the state that like is going to impact folks at a local level and in local government. That's just like a lot of work. And I also want to think about, I don't know, my brain isn't like able to go to this space right now, but I'm trying to think about like, what are right, like for us to get to that culmination point in 2022, people have been doing work for like longer than 2022, right? Like the saving of Christmas that is happening actually started years ago. And I'm trying to think about like, what are the things that are happening right now that are the seeds of saving Christmas in 2024 and in 2025. And I can't quite get there, but I know that they exist, and maybe smarter people than me will tell me what they are next time I see them.
I like that you're picking apart the premise of my question. And
writing major, the thing we're good at.
I think I didn't give mine. The Lyndale Avenue 4 to 3 conversion, the medians at 25th and 27th Street. I didn't think I would ever be able to cross Lyndale Avenue at those intersections ever in my life. And now I'm able to. It happened so quickly, although it was years in the making, as you point out about other things, Elissa. And shout out to County Commissioner Marion Green, who somehow helped make that happen. I appreciate that very much, and I have not said that enough. And so thank you, Commissioner Green, and thank you to all the people who forced Marion Green to do that.
Yeah, thank you to the people who stood in the middle of Lyndale. I think, John, you were probably one of them, who stood in the middle of Lyndale and faced down cars who were very angry about that to make this happen.
Mm-hmm. It didn't make the most news, but I don't know. In my neighborhood, at least,
better though. Yeah. I think sometimes these are the pieces that in city politics or in politics and urban design, when things make a bunch of news, that's when you get the people who are against it for no reason, people from suburban Hennepin County calling Marion Green, yelling at her, right, is not the outcome. It's these are the things where it's you want to just do it, and then when it happens, people are super grateful and excited about it, and then they just move on with their lives. I don't know, I think this is a piece of the government process that is sometimes people want to over input, they want too much input when the solution is really evident, and just do it. Just this is what people want, just do it. We don't need to talk about it. We can just make this better. And I think this is a really good example of not over engaging people who are going to be against it because they're just against it.
I think a key to that is it was done as a pilot. And so it didn't have 18 years of public engagement. It was just we're going to try this out, people. You give us feedback after, see how it works out. And it has worked out. And I think it won over a lot of skeptics. I don't sense there's a big movement to go back to the terrible way it was before, despite the fact that traffic engineers expressing doubt about the feasibility a couple of years ago. And now it's worked out. Elissa?
And you and I have actually talked about this previously also when we were on the bike at Open Streets, about the difference in approach with Hennepin and the Hennepin redesign and the amount of stakes that people understood the conversation to be, where they were we're having a conversation about the future of the street for the next 50 years. And I think from whatever vantage point you approached and thought about what the right design for the street was, that was part of the narrative. That was front of mind. And so there was this this is the only chance I have to influence this. This is the only time we're going to decide. And if we don't decide my way, it's the worst and everything is broken forever, right? And that's not good public engagement. That is a recipe for making people really frothed up about a thing. And I really hope that both at the county level and at the local city level that folks take to heart the success of Lyndale and start moving in that direction of what if every time we did a massive street redesign, we just did a pilot to see how some of it worked? It'll probably all work fine. Then we get people's reactions to the street as it is, as opposed to their ideas of what the street is going to be which are deeply values loaded.
So many predictions of doom and gloom that if you looked at history and past predictions of doom and gloom about similar projects, they don't come to pass ever. And yet we have to take them seriously every time and spend time talking and debunking them. But our musical guest has arrived. It's the ghost of Christmas past, Cameron Gordon, former Minneapolis City Council member. Cameron, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I love the beard. I wish you were still a council member. I could have done a time lapse of your beard growing, but you haven't been on video in a while, and so this is a unveiling of your beard.
Yeah, you actually, during COVID, I grew one a little while, and you did something like that. So
I did. I wanted to do it again, is what I'm saying. It's good to see the finished product and not the awkward in-between stages of the beard, right? How do you feel about that?
How do you feel about him insulting your awkward in-between stages of your beard?
I think it's nice to see the changes. And then you can cut it off if you want and trim it and all that stuff. I think the viewers would really like to see you grow one, John, quite seriously.
I'm on Cam. You know me, Cam. I'm such a celebrity these days. I'm on YouTube all the time. The awkward in-between stages would really get in the way. Do you have a Santa hat, Cameron? And do you mind if I call you Cameron? There we go. Look at that.
We're good. I got that, and I got this.
Oh. Antlers. Just let's do the Santa hat. The antlers and the Santa hat is confusing to people. So I did not tell PeggySue and Elissa that you would be our surprise musical guest, and so you can see by their faces they are very delighted to have you, as am I. And so you're here to sing us a holiday song.
Let me get my guitar.
Okay.
John, this is so good. You're so good at things. You're so good at podcasts.
Elissa is so impressed with me that I produced you on camera.
Yeah, this would have, you could have made me make 1,000 guesses and I would have never guessed this.
But I think our audience will be delighted as well. Cam, what are you going to sing for us? Or should we be surprised by the tune?
You can be surprised and sing along if you know the words.
Okay.
Jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring, snowing and blowing up bushels of fun. Now the jingle hop has begun. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bell chime in jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square. In the frosty air, what a bright time. It's the right time to dance the night away. A jingle bell time, it's a swell time to go gliding in a one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle horse, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. Mix and mingle with the jingle bell beat. That's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell rock.
Yay. Cameron Gordon, our surprise musical guest. Any good Christmas special needs a surprise musical guest, and you really fit the bill, Cam Gordon. Thank you for doing this. And I wonder if my co-hosts have any particular questions for our special guest.
Thank you for being here. That was delightful. What a treat.
Well, you're welcome. And it's my honor and privilege to try to help out a little bit, because I do think that Wedge Live and you all do such a service for the city and the community that it's amazing. And hopefully this will brighten your show just a little bit.
It's going to bring in so many viewers. Thank you so much, Cam. Elissa, do you have any thoughts, comments, questions for Cam Gordon? We don't get this level of celebrity on the podcast very often.
Like, I mostly want to know how you've been. Like, life after being an elected official. Like, being an elected official is hard and a lot of work, especially doing it consecutively for as long as you did it. And I don't know, I've just been like thinking about you, thinking about Robin Garwood on your team, who I knew, and hoping that like things are well for you, and just kind of wondering how life is. I don't know, maybe that's too like personal a question for a podcast episode, but in the question is lots of wishing good for you and your folks.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'd say there's a lot that I miss about it, and I sometimes am just so happy that I'm not there though, as I watch from the sidelines. It's kind of like I was there 16 years, so it's kind of like I studied it. I got some kind of expertise, a PhD in it, so it's also been an addiction I'm having trouble getting over. So I'm paying attention. I follow it. I tweet about it, and then I even reached out to some neighborhood newspapers and said, could I just cover some city politics stories for you? And so I'm doing some of that, and it's helping wean myself of it a little bit, I think. But also helping me think, oh, I still get to maybe make a little bit of a difference by poking it from out here. And it's kind of fun to be out here poking back at it. And knowing how many wonderful co-conspirators that I have, not hiding the fact, out in the community is just delightful.
Cam, I appreciate the unique approach you've taken to your post-elected life, because a lot of people just like disappear, go away, you never hear from them again, or they move on to the next thing. But you are still sharing your thoughts and opinions based on your experience, which I think is incredibly valuable. You're writing, you're tweeting, as you say, and the impulse can be to like hide away and be done with it, but you're not doing that, and I appreciate it very much.
Well, you're welcome.
Did you take up music before or after you left office?
So that was before. In a future career, I was a Montessori preschool teacher for years and years, and one of my favorite parts about it was when I would sing with the kids. Now, I will confess that I was in a kind of a rock new wave band in the 80s with my brothers, and we played around town a little bit. But that wasn't really a career. Instead, I took my music into the classroom with my preschoolers, and maybe you noticed when I was doing Jingle Bell Rock that, well, that's maybe not so great, but boy, I bet kindergartners would like it. That's kind of what I did. And I actually was a roving music teacher at different child care centers and preschools for a while as part of my business. First called World Song and then called River's Edge. So I actually hadn't played much for a while. I had to dust off my fake books and get it out, but it brought back some fond memories.
Weren't you in a band at one point?
Yeah, I was alluding to that. I was in a couple bands. The New Psychonauts, we called ourselves, back in the late 70s. It was when disco was the rage in Minneapolis and hardly any clubs had live music. So one of our claims to fame is we would get to warm up the suburbs sometimes. You might have heard of the Suburbs. And the Suicide Commandos, played with them, but maybe not. You guys are all pretty young.
Definitely heard of the Suburbs.
What are you looking forward to in 2023, Cameron?
It'll be interesting to watch the city elections, I have to say, and not be in the middle of one of the campaigns. I think it's really unfortunate that these folks have to run after 2 years, so they got to do one budget process and barely get to know what's going on there. I mean, it takes a while to even learn how things work. And now they're running again for re-election, some of them, or most of them. So I guess I'll enjoy not having to lead a campaign for city council.
Yeah, if you want to revisit the preschool classroom circuit, I don't know. I, for a time, worked in fundraising and in the office at a preschool, and a lot of my friends are preschool teachers. So if you ever want to drop in on a preschool classroom, I will make that connection. They would be happy to have you.
Well, I'll think about it. It is kind of fun playing for kids.
Cam, thank you so much. This was a joy. You have brightened our holiday season. PeggySue, the next segment is whatever happened to PeggySue's figure skating hobby that you had taken up last I heard. How is that going?
It's so good. I figure skated yesterday. I'm still figure skating. So, if we want to add this into the like excursion of sledding, we can do it somewhere that also has a skating rink, and I'll skate. I can give skate lessons, I can keep people upright.
I think we were going to go to Lake of the Isles and do some skating, so you are welcome to join us with that. Paul Chesley was going to help us.
I would love to do that. Please invite me.
Okay. I will let Paul, if you're listening, please invite PeggySue.
Yes.
Paul is my winter episode segment producer, apparently.
I will say I've gotten to be such a princess though, where I'm like, anytime I'm out on like outside ice, I'm like, it's not nice. It's not as nice as being in inside ice. So I should get out and skate in the outdoors more.
That reminds me, Elissa, what do you consider yourself a princess of?
Decline. I don't. What?
I'm sorry.
No, I just I don't. I guess I don't know. Probably other people do.
That's an appropriate answer. That's an appropriate answer.
Other people probably do, and I would be very interested to know what those things are. But nothing comes to mind immediately.
Okay. Did you bring your? Did we do hopes and dreams? I know we asked Cam Gordon what he's looking forward to in 2023.
I don't think we did that.
We did not.
Let's do it for us. Elissa, do you have hopes and dreams for 2023?
I don't yet. So every year, this is like a little New Year's goalsy, so I don't know if you want to talk about that at any point. But every year, starting on the solstice and then wrapping up before the end of the calendar year, I sit down and do this exercise. I think it's called Year Compass. A friend of mine shared it with me a number of years ago, where you reflect on the year back, like the last year, and then you also reflect on like the year ahead and what you want your year to look like. And it's a long booklet. It takes a while. It takes me a while. Maybe other people go through it faster, but I don't know what I want for my year ahead yet, because it's not the solstice. That's when I I have it tabled mentally. I sit down on the solstice and start and do a whole process.
I didn't realize you had a whole process for it. Something like that gives me consternation, because it seems to me you could end up going over all your failures and feeling bad about it. How do you not, in reviewing the previous year, I like to forget everything that happened. I like to forget, wash myself of it, not dwell on it, because people have a tendency to focus on their failures or perceived failures. How do you take stock of the past year and not be filled with regret of all the things you failed to do or did very poorly?
Yeah, I think so. The framework I use is really useful because in part it starts by asking you to review your calendar for the last year and write down the things you want to remember, right? So like the framing in that question is not like, what were the things that were terrible in my year, but it's like, what did I do this year that's like worth putting down on paper that feels like a positive thing that I want to remember. And then it's more about thinking about like not your accomplishments, but like different areas of your life where it's like, what was this about? If I were going to like sit down and sort of theme how I feel about my relationships with friends this year, right? And how I feel about community and my sense of community this year. Like, what does that look like? Write a couple sentences about it. And certainly that could include like things like I feel like my friendships were not satisfying, or I felt really lonely and disconnected from community, right? But then acknowledging that allows you to later like write some things down about like how you want that to change, right? And specific steps that you might take to make some of that change. I think it's really like the framework has a nice balance of like, let's think about accomplishments, and then also let's think about challenges. Let's think about the people who were there for me, and also think about, like areas in my life that are not feeling like they're getting the attention that they need. So I don't know. I think it's like easy to do that, and also having an external framework where someone has already thought about that balance of like things that feel positive and things that might feel hard is helpful, because then you like don't get to only think about things that felt hard.
I'm taken aback by your ability to turn this throwaway question into a very substantive answer. How did this happen? We didn't prepare that.
This is what she does. She's so good at it. I feel like this is every question.
PeggySue, do you have a less thorough answer to that? A more...
Yeah, I can be more flippant, for sure. Okay. No, this is silly. So, one, I'm much more of a resolutions on your birthday sort of person than, like, at the calendar year. The calendar year, I think, is sort of, like, in my perspective, like, not as valuable as, like, as doing it at your birthday, right? Just because that's the way that I think. That's not necessarily correct. It's just what I like to do. So for me, when I think about like New Year's are just always like really fresh, and it's really fun to think about like restarting my reading goal. Like I can't wait to be like back at zero and like what's the first book I'm gonna read this year. My husband and I are like obsessed with Spotify Wrapped. Like he talks about it a good 6 months of the year. Like the last 6 months of the year, he is like, I can't wait to see what's in my Spotify Wrapped. So like excited to start that over. Like I love like the fresh beginnings that start with the new year, where you get to like kind of start these things over and like the first things you get to do in a year. So very excited for my like book read number to be back at zero, to like start my first book of the year, to start that like ticking over again.
So how many books did you read this year?
I think I'm on like 37, wow. Which was not where I wanted to be, but it is where it is.
What was your goal?
I think I really wanted to be closer to 50, but that's all right.
How about you, Elissa? Are you tracking your books read this year?
I am, yes.
Where are you at?
I have read 115 books this year.
Wow. What did you have a goal?
120. I will make it very consistently between 120 and 123. So it's like not really a goal. It's just like this is how many books I'm going to read. For
anyone in the audience feeling very illiterate right now, I haven't read any books this year. So.
Well, I think between the two of us, we can offer you some great recommendations. Like pick your topic of interest, and I'm sure we will have something we can offer you.
I read a lot of tweets.
You probably read several books worth of tweets.
Should I feel bad about that? Yeah.
No.
See, this is why I don't take stock of my failures. I would feel bad dwelling on this fact. I used to read.
It's not. Reading is amoral.
Okay. I don't have to feel bad about it.
Yeah, it's like exercise.
I feel like I'm perfectly literate without having read a book this year.
Yeah.
I know stuff.
You know
stuff because you read all those tweets.
Yeah.
I read meeting agendas, so many meeting agendas. I read piles and piles of amendments to the police oversight ordinance. So that's literary. Do you have any books to recommend? I guess we should get into our gift guide segment. Ooh. Books to recommend. Of those many books you both read, Elissa, do you have one in particular that you think our audience would enjoy?
One, I wrote down 4 because I was like,
okay.
I don't know most of the questions that are going to get asked, but if we do a gift guide section, I'm going to get asked about books. So I would recommend, if I only get to recommend one.
You could do 4, that's fine.
Okay, well, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to recommend first a duology, which is technically 2 books, but one protracted story, which is The City We Became, and then the sequel, The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. They are like questions that explore in kind of a fantasy realm the idea of cities having a soul, and in specific, the city of New York having a soul, and thinking about like what is the books posit this idea of like the city coming to life, right, and the city becoming sort of endowed with a soul, and thinking about like in that context, what are the things we need to survive and what are the things that we need to thrive, and like what are the tools we have available as humans. I don't know, there's some like local politics stuff that comes up in the second book that will probably be very satisfying for this particular readership also. It was part of why this one's the top of the list. So The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd is like that book you should buy for that person you know who really likes maps. It's very good.
I like that book.
It's good, yeah. Babel and Arcane History by Rebecca Quang. Only read this book if you are prepared to cry, because that is how Rebecca Quang writes things. But it's also like a very interesting commentary on like language and literature and like linguistic imperialism alongside regular imperialism, and also is like at the same time exploring one of those like cozy Oxford type settings, except it's not Oxford type, it's like actually at Oxford. Last Exit by Max Gladstone is a book that like a lot of it takes place in a car, and I still really like it, in part because that's like commentary. A lot of the book is about like, what if these like constructs of the American dream like not really come to life, but like it explores those ideas of like it's built on the literary constructs of the American dream, and one of them includes like the automobile and the freedom of cars. And there's like a very good, very long diatribe on like page 25 of what is like a 400-page book that's just like, oh yeah, let's hate on Robert Moses, fuck that guy. It's very good. I'm underselling all of these books, but they're very good books. I'll stop now.
PeggySue, do you have a book?
Yes. So I'll say my favorite book I read last year was Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. It's amazing. It's so good. So highly recommend. A book that I'll recommend to everyone, even if they say they don't like sci-fi or like fantasy, is a set of novellas called The Murderbot Diaries. They are amazing. It's so good. It's about like a robot who basically is able to break his, like the governor module on his like robot body that allows him to be like to operate of his own free will. And it is just like, he is just like a delightful like character, and like his entire life is like devoted to like watching media, and that's all he wants to do is like watch television, which is iconic. And it's about him just kind of traveling through space, solving mysteries. It's great. I also really recommend, I actually prefer like the audiobook. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but the narrator on the audiobook version is just like so good. It's so good. And then I read a lot of like fluffy romance, and I would say my favorite fluffy romance book that I read this year was called Bunny You Should Ask. And it's actually based on like an article that was written about, I don't know, what's the really hot Chris, the one that was like sexiest man of the year. I don't know. This is the wrong audience to ask this question.
Truly the wrong audience, yes.
Chris Hemsworth?
Nope, the other one. Chris Evans. Yeah. So it's based on
Captain
like a real
America?
interview that... Yes, Captain America. Okay. It's based on like a real interview that happened with like a reporter and Chris Evans, who they have this like kind of weekend long sort of almost date. But it's a fictional retelling of that, and it was just a great little romance book. 10 out of 10.
So I have found that I can't get into TV as much during the pandemic. I used to watch a lot of TV shows, and I just like my attention span has not been there for it. Couldn't get into it. But there was one TV show in particular, maybe the only one I have been able to take in, Severance. Either of you watched Severance? No?
No, and I read a book by that title, but it's not the one the TV show is based on. So
I also read that book.
Ling Ma?
Alyssa and I just be out here reading the same books. Yeah,
So-
I read it. It was a wild time.
So this is not going to spur that. This is going to spur a monologue rather than a conversation. I enjoyed the TV show Severance. It's about a deeply troubled man who agrees to have his identity completely split so that his work self and his home self have no idea about the life the other is living. His work self is like he only knows his workplace, doesn't know the traumas that led to his outside self putting him into this workplace with no knowledge of the outside world. Basically, his whole life is work, and it's about an evil company that has done this to them. And I was touched by the themes of this TV show, which neither of you have seen, and we can't talk about it.
Is that HBO or is that Apple?
I think it's Apple.
See, that's why I haven't
Apple.
seen it. I
There are ways to
desperately-
acquire TV shows that you don't subscribe to.
Yeah, I'm so like I'm not a very big TV watcher, and so I'm just like not willing to do anything that requires effort on my part, including like subscribe to Apple TV. Like
I can recommend it because I've had a hard time getting into TV shows, and I was able to get into this one.
What made you stick with this one?
I don't know. It just kind of grabbed me. Like I was interested and invested, and I could go one episode to the next in a way that I haven't been able to do in a couple of years. So, Congratulations to me. I'm able to sit in front of my TV for long periods again.
I'm so proud of you for this, this regrowth in your life.
Yeah. Have either of you seen the movie Plan B? I saw that recently. That was delightful.
No.
No?
God, I just read books. That's all I do. Sorry.
A delightful comedy about two teenage girls in South Dakota on an adventure to find emergency contraception where reproductive health care is impossible to access. It doesn't sound delightful.
That does not. No, that sounds like a horror film.
It had a message, but it was also fun, and I enjoyed it. A small little movie that probably not many people have heard of.
Yeah, I would watch that, to be honest.
Either of you have video game recommendations? Anything you've enjoyed in the video game sphere?
I played. This is probably why I haven't watched that much TV. Is I played a lot of Nintendo Switch in the last year.
Which game?
So most recently, I played Bear and Breakfast, which is a game that is available for PC and Switch. I think it is a game that after playing it on Switch is probably a far more enjoyable PC game. But it's just like a task management game where you're like a bear in the woods and you're running a set of bed and breakfasts. It's incredibly cute and cozy. And then I played Spiritfarer this fall, which I highly, highly recommend. Which is like you're a Spiritfarer. You like find these like little spirits all over this like world that you're exploring, and you're helping them kind of complete tasks so that they can like get to the other side and move on from kind of like a purgatory.
Elissa.
I recently, I like love the Legend of Zelda franchise, just a silly amount, and recently played a game on Steam called Tunic, which is not a newer game, but it's like...
I was going to recommend that. You're stealing my recommendation.
Oh! Well,
but I'm
let's talk about
glad
it now.
that you also recommend it.
You can probably say more intelligent things about it, because I was just like, you're a cute little fox, and it's like Zelda. That's basically my recommendation. Except, like, also you can't read anything because it's in a different language, and, like, figuring out the instructions is also a puzzle.
Right. If you're an older person like me, I remember not enjoying those early Zelda games, and you look at the instruction booklet and it's not all that helpful. And Tunic is very challenging, but also I was able to do it, and I had a lot of fun. So yeah, it is a lot like Zelda. Another thing, I'll trash Zelda a little bit here. Breath of the Wild is it's a good game, objectively speaking, but there are like challenging, like quality of life things where it's like, why is this such a pain in the ass to do? So a better version of Breath of the Wild, it's like a shameless ripoff of Breath of the Wild. It's called, what's it called? Immortals Fenyx Rising.
I have also
all
played
of
this
the
game.
fun, none of the frustrating quirks. You have also played that game?
Yeah, I really liked it. It was really good. It's also funny.
Yeah, it
Zelda
is good.
Is not
It's like
a funny
it's
franchise, but Fenyx Rising is like very funny. It's got a narrator.
Yeah, I don't know about the writing. I was not as taken by the writing as Elissa is, but the gameplay, it's a more enjoyable version of Breath of the Wild. PeggySue, are you offended by this take?
No, I just think that you're probably offending many people who love this game, love Breath of the Wild. My only Breath of the Wild experience is that whenever my husband plays, he lets me like take it and like find ingredients and then cook a bunch of food, which I find really fun. And that is why I mostly play like tasking games, or like sim games where you are in fact cooking food as part of the game itself.
I'll go through a list of games I also recommend. Hades. I was skeptical that I would enjoy that. It's like a Greek mythology themed dungeon crawler. I think they call it a roguelike.
Yeah, Nate played that.
a very high replayability factor. A lot of more personality than you would expect from a game like that. And you don't have to invest like 30 hours to finish it. You can put it down and pick it up like a month later and still have fun. I got very good at it after being very bad at it. So that should tell you I was able to stick with it. I enjoyed it. Lots of fun. Very, you know.
Did either of you play Stray?
No.
No.
Oh, you should play that. That's cute. You're just like a cat and you roam around as a little cat. And it's like a puzzle game.
I can also recommend Prey, which is like a first-person shooter where you're stranded on a space station where everyone else is dead. I've deeply immersive, great setting. I think very underrated. So play that one if you get the chance.
Kind of related recommendation because you said space station. Citizen Sleeper. If folks have not heard of that game, I think it came out this year or late last year. It's more of a narrative game. It's more of a storytelling game. But you are you play a sleeper, which is basically you are a being in a body that has like a copy of someone else's brain, right? So like you think you're that other person, but you're not. You're like a copy of them, and your body is slowly degrading over time, and you're trying to figure out like how do you survive on this post-apocalyptic space station. But it's got like very heart compelling stories. It's like very, very sweet, and has a nice, like the mechanics are very simple. You can probably play the whole game start to finish in 30 hours if you really want to, 40 hours if you really want to. So it's very fun, but it's more of a storytelling game. It's low mechanics.
Do either of you have more recommendations to offer our viewers of any kind at all?
I'm trying to think of something that changed my life this year, you know, like a product, you know, or like something.
Was it those Christmas tree glasses that you're wearing? Did that change your life?
No, it did not. Although it did change the vibe, and I feel good about the vibe that it's giving.
It changed this episode. It certainly did.
I will say, actually, I did, we somehow have, we're just getting my entire office to subscribe to this, rental, clothing company called Newly, and we just all rent our clothes now, and that just is great,
Really? You're into clothes rental now?
Yeah. So you rent the clothes, they come to your house in, a reusable shipping container. It's like a cloth, zipped kit, and then you put all the clothes back, you ship it back. It's 10 out of 10. Highly recommend.
Is that not prohibitively expensive to rent your clothes?
No, you get, it's like a subscription service, like HelloFresh or whatever. So it's like $80 a month, and then you get 6 items. So I very much enjoyed it.
Do you have any idea, this is probably too technical a question, but so the clothes you're wearing have been washed, worn by another person, presumably, and washed?
Yes.
Sent back to you. How many cycles do the clothes go through like that? Do you know? Do they say?
Great question. I have no idea. I haven't been a subscriber long enough to see, how long, any one garment that I'm looking for seems to be in circulation. It definitely does seem like as things, and you can buy it, you have the option to buy it if you want to. I don't tend to buy things because the whole point was for me to reduce my clothes buying. But some of the things I've gotten have been pretty new to the website or whatever. So they've come with the tag still on them, and then they enter circulation where someone else will wear them after me. Some of the stuff has been clearly worn. I got a skirt that seemed to be pretty well loved and worn, but was still in great shape last month. So,
but do you set up a list of things that should come to you next?
You set up just a closet of things you like, and then when you are able to, open your next box, when you send the one you have back, then you can add your items. So it is a little bit of a free for all where you might be really wanting something and then it's not available.
This is a very interesting concept.
Yeah, I really like it.
And, Elissa, do you have anything to add before we go?
This is not Spawn. I feel like you have to disclose.
Do you want to bash PeggySue's lifestyle choices?
I do not want to do that. We live in a society where it's very difficult to, I don't know, buy clothing, any kind of clothing ethically. We're all making ethical compromises in most of our purchasing decisions. So, again, taking a light question and making it real serious.
The way I acquire clothing, I have to order shirts online from Target or wherever, get the tall sizes. I can't shop in store for shirts, or my like belly button and my butt will show. Not that I go around pantsless. I'm just saying I like my shirts to go below my waist, is what I'm saying. I think we're done. You feel like we're
going to end on your belly button being covered up appropriately.
Yeah, I felt left out of the clothing conversation and had to emphasize that I go on Target.com and select the tall sizes.
Also not Spawn. This is not Target Spawn.
Yeah. Also, before we go, my recommendation for 2023 is to support Wedge Live. I have made upgrades in equipment that enables me to produce these shows more efficiently, less time consuming. So hopefully just mountains of content coming for you, the listener. Please, this is only possible because you support Wedge Live. So please continue to do so. And if you don't, please consider doing so. Patreon.com/Wedge Live. Thank you. Happy holidays. Thank you to Cam Gordon. Thank you to Elissa Shuffman. Thank you, PeggySue Amihi, and your festive Christmas goggles that you've been wearing. This was so much fun. I am happy with how this episode turned out. I think people will love it.
You never know what the people will love.
I have a sense about this one. Don't be skeptical. I think people will love it.
I think with the special musical guest, how could you not?
I agree. It's going to be a smash hit. Although everyone will be out of town. No one will listen. Everyone will be busy with Christmas stuff.
No, everyone's going to listen to it as this is going to be the substitute for Christmas music.
Well, not if it's more than
Take that,
60
clip
minutes,
that,
though.
and add that. That can be your advertisement for the episode. That this is the substitute for Christmas music.
Mm-hmm.
Decorate your tree to this episode of the Wedge Live.
Forget Mariah Carey. Cam Gordon's Jingle Bell Rock is going to be all over the airwaves. I'm your host, John Edwards. This has been the Wedge Live podcast. Thank you for listening.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now. Right now.